Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I just want to start off this podcast celebrating you for just a second. When this podcast comes out, it is just a couple days before Mother's Day. And my husband really doesn't like these holidays. He doesn't like these, forced have to appreciate people holidays because he does. He does a great job of doing it all the time. But for me, I'm going to take advantage of it because I do like these moments to intentionally remember and have gratitude for these different situations in our lives. And Mother's Day is one of those things. I want to celebrate you because I know most of you guys are women, are mothers, are, mother-like roles in this world. And you being here listening to this podcast says so much. The fact that you take the time to listen to this, to work on yourself, to do the internal work so that you can show up and be the best version of yourself that you can be says wonders. And I just want you to pause and to celebrate that for a second because there is a ripple effect that is happening. You doing this for you impacts so many people, the people that you work with, the youth that you are a part of, your families, your friends. You doing this work, you being selfish helps you to be selfless. And I just want to celebrate that. Thank you for showing up here. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being willing to do the hard work that so many people they're afraid of. So it speaks volumes about who you are. I hope on this Mother's Day that you create the Mother's Day that you want. If it's a hard one for you, then let yourself just be in that hard place. Love yourself in this day. Because I know for a lot of people, Mother's Day can represent and bring up a lot of hard emotions. And I just want you to know that you can still create the Mother's Day that you want on this day. You can love yourself. You can process through the grief, whatever it is that's coming up for you. You can navigate that by having acceptance of what you're experiencing. Now, the other side of this is if you're not going through a hard time, sometimes we can create the hard for us by having expectations that we don't say to anybody else. So this is my giving you permission here. You create the Mother's Day that you want. If you are wanting something sentimental this year, say it, ask for it. Now, don't hold on to it, whether it happens or not, but speak more, show up for yourself. Because I know I was guilty of this for so many years where I just had the expectation that they should know. They should know that that's what I want. And then I would be let down every single time. So you give yourself the best gift by giving yourself what you want, right? If you see something that you want, either tell your spouse or your kids that for it, or go buy it for yourself. You deserve that for yourself. And who better than you to give yourself the thing that you want? So create the Mother's Day that you want this year. And I just, again, like I said, I celebrate you for being here on this podcast, doing the things that no one probably else sees. Just know that it is creating an impact. Even if your brain tells you otherwise, right? It is creating an impact. Now, I want to speak to something that I just mentioned, which is acceptance. And I know I've talked about this a lot here on the podcast, but I think it is relevant to this time of year. I think it is relevant to so many things that are going on in this world. And it's something that I think can also help us be able to navigate this. My daughter is a senior. So when this comes out, she's actually her last day of high school, which is mind-boggling. And we had a little bit of a breakdown a couple of nights ago where she walked in, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night. She was supposed to be studying for her finals, but she had another realization that this chapter is ending, and a lot of grief for her. And I feel for her because even me watching her, I understand, but also this is my oldest, and I'm having a little bit of that same thing of, holy cow, we've arrived at this place that we've all been planning for so long. And there's two ways that we can navigate this. And I think for a lot of people, without realizing it, we're entering a lot of resistance. And the way that we know this is a couple ways, but a way that we know this is basically our energy level. If you're finding that you're tired all the time, that you're short-tempered, that you're reactive in a lot of things, that is a cue, that is a sign that you're probably dipping into some resistance around situations around your thoughts, maybe situations around an outcome, situations around emotions even. The way that you are, the person that you're being can tell you if you're in resistance or if you're in acceptance. Let me give you an example of what this looks like. So last week, I had bought my kids some tickets to go see Benson Boone. Now, I don't know if you know about Benson Boone. My kids have known him for a couple of years. I think he's getting more and more popular, but I knew my kids loved him. And so a couple months back, his concert came on sale. And so we bought the tickets. Now we live in a small town. So most of these concerts, I don't know of any actually that have, there's been a couple that have come here into our town, but most of them are 2.5 hours, 3 hours away. And this was going to be on a Monday night. So we already knew preemptively that this was going to be a late night. So we left after school, we drove all the way there, attended the concert, and then drove home. And so because we were in acceptance of this, of like, you know what? We're going to be tired the next day, come Tuesday, right? We're going to have to go to school. I'm going to have to still coach. I'm going to still have to show up in my life. And I know I'm going to be tired. The craziest thing happened. I had so much energy. I had so much focus because I had gotten into acceptance of the fact that I was going to be really, really tired the next day. It seems counterintuitive to us, right? Now, there's been other times I've been going through a lot of fatigue lately, a lot of situations, and I'm sure it's probably because chapter endings with my daughter, some other things that are going on with my health. I have been really, really tired. And because I've been in resistance to that tired, thinking it shouldn't be this way, kind of a lot of judgments about myself, I hyper focus on it, right? I check in all the time to see how tired am I? Do I have focus? I'm like doing a temp check all of the time. And you hear this all the time, this cliche of what you focus on, you create, right? So if I'm focusing on how tired I am and checking in to see how tired I am, then I'm actually draining my energy and I'm creating more exhaustion for myself. And it just is, I'm in so much resistance. Acceptance actually helps us to not think about the thing so that we can go and show up, choose intentionally how we want to be. Where is this possible? Where is this relevant for you? Is there a situation where maybe you are hyper focused on it, which is taking a lot of your energy and it's taking a lot of your emotions to have to practice and to focus on? Let me just help you unpack this just a little bit more. And I know I said it, I just want to make this really, really clear. When we resist something, whether it is a situation, an emotion, a circumstance, we tend to focus a lot of our mental and emotional energy on it. And this resistance takes up a lot of valuable mental real estate. It really does. And so many times we're like, no, I totally accept it, but notice where your thoughts go. If you're thinking about it nonstop, if you're checking in nonstop, that is taking up so much real estate in your brain, which then I think of it like an open loop that's in your brain, like an open tab. It is draining you in the background and it leaves us exhausted. So how do we know? Kind of again, how do we know if we are in a state of resistance? Well, again, I think you're going to know by your exhaustion. I think you're going to know by your reaction to things, but also you can tell by tension or just overall discomfort that you might have in your body. It's that sense of kind of pushing against something, whether it is a situation, an emotion, or a thought. So when we are in resistance, our minds tend to fixate on them, right? What's wrong? What we wish was different. We might find ourselves ruminating on the past or worrying about the future rather than, and this is where the acceptance comes in, staying grounded in this present moment. One way to recognize resistance is to pay attention to your body. Notice any tightness or tension. Particularly, I notice it for myself. And again, this is where you have to kind of do this work for you to know. But I notice it a lot in my jaw, my shoulders, and on in my chest. I'm like, where is the other place? And these physical sensations can be very subtle indicators that you're resisting something. Another clue is that emotional state. Are you feeling frustrated? Are you irritable? Are you feeling anxious a lot? These are common signs of resistance. When we are in resistance, our emotions often feel heightened and we may have a sense of being kind of stuck or powerless. And I know this so much for myself. So let's explore this just a little bit. How do we shift then, right? If maybe you're like, okay, I'm noticing that in this area of my life, I'm in a lot of resistance. I can tell it by my body. I can tell it by my energy. I can tell it by how I'm showing up, whatever it is. How do we shift then from that resistance to acceptance? Because first off, let me just kind of even talk about acceptance for a second. I think so many people resist acceptance because of what they interpret it to mean. And they think that acceptance means I'm just okay with it. I'm totally fine with it. That's not the case. Acceptance is, this is the reality of what is. Guys, I will be very honest. I am not okay with my daughter graduating. There's a lot of resistance that can be there. If I can get into acceptance, however, I'm accepting the emotions that are with it. I'm accepting the grief, which then allows me to have the space to hold the grief, love the grief, but then also be present and take in this moment. Because if I'm in a resistance, it's kind of like what we said. I'm living in the past, thinking of her as a kindergartner, which holy cow, just feels like it was yesterday. I'm thinking about the future of like, I feel like I'm going to blink and I'm going to be a grandma, which I can wait for, please. I can wait. But if I'm in acceptance, I can be here and I can feel these emotions. I can feel all of it because it's validated. Acceptance doesn't mean I have to like it. Acceptance doesn't mean I have to condone it. If there's something that we're maybe resisting in a behavior or a situation, acceptance is this is the situation. This is actually key to change of any kind, is actually getting into acceptance. So that's just first thing. But how do we then get from resistance to acceptance? Well, the first step is just obviously what we said, is just acknowledging your resistance. Okay, you got to just recognize that's where you're at. And this might be just you kind of pausing for a second, tuning into your body, finding out where you are feeling tight, noticing, emotions that maybe you've been avoiding because you've been in so much resistance, noticing the thoughts that maybe you've been ruminating on. And I would encourage you guys to do this without any judgment. Just stay curious, be a scientist, and just observe what is going on, because that's the first step. We can't do anything with things that we don't understand or acknowledge, right? So you have to just become aware of, you know what, I think I'm in resistance here. Then we got to go into just practicing that mindfulness. I wouldn't say it's like necessarily being in the brain, but it's just, I think of it doing the internal work for just a second. Notice where you're having resistance. Where is the resistance in your body? And I would encourage you to first take a couple deep breaths to bring that awareness into your body. Where are you feeling the tightness? Where are you feeling the pressure? What are the sensations that are in your body? And just notice, sit with it for a second and relax into it. Relax the body, relax the jaw, relax the chest, whatever it is. Become grounded and be present with what's going on. This will help you get to acceptance. And one of the fast ways that you can do this is just doing the five senses. If you're in so much resistance and you're having a hard time just even going into the body to recognize where you're in resistance, do the five senses. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you touching? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? Whatever it is, let yourself just become in this moment, and that will help you to just pause, slow things down, and notice what's going on. Then I want you to challenge your thoughts. This is such a good practice for us to do. Again, our brain wants to tell us that all of these things that we're thinking are facts, right? This is the worst thing in the world. This shouldn't be happening this way. And we often want to double down, right? And I just want you to play around with, what if you're wrong about that? It's one of my favorite questions to ask myself, because if I'm right, then I'm stuck. But if I'm willing to be wrong, I have a chance to do something different. So again, I want to notice my thoughts and I want to question all of them. Resistance is fueled by negative or limiting beliefs. Resistance is fueled by the negative stories, the things that we think should be a different way. Take a look at those stories that you're telling yourself about the situation. Are they really true? Or are they just assumptions based off of your past? Or could you see it a different way? Is another thing you can look at. By questioning your thoughts, you can start to loosen your grip on this resistance. Then we also have to just have some compassion. Like, I think again about my daughter graduating. I understand why I've been resistance. Like, here's this chapter that's coming to a close, and whenever we're moving on, I think we kind of double down and it becomes louder if we're not careful with it, right? So I have to love myself in this moment. I have to practice self-compassion, be gentle in navigating and letting that go, because that's so scary to do, right? Resistance feels like we're doing something, whereas acceptance feels like it's a surrender. And it's scary to kind of move between those two. Have so much love and acceptance for yourself and self-compassion for yourself. Treat yourself with kindness and compassion, just as you would a dear friend. Listen to yourself as a dear friend. If I think about that for myself, if I'm thinking about, my daughter graduating, I just like, I can't believe we're here. I can't believe we're here. And I would just, the way that I would approach that as a friend is like, I know, I get it. I hear you. And I think it would be having a shoulder to cry on, even just for myself, and saying like, this is hard. Like, this is so hard. And just letting myself feel everything that I'm feeling and expressing it in that way. And then the last part of this, the steps to moving you from resistance to acceptance, is knowing what you can control. Again, resistance is focusing on all the things that we actually can't control. It's all those woulda, shoulda, couldas, right? That we can't control any of that. I can't control my daughter not graduating from high school. What can I control? I can control me allowing myself to feel these emotions. Kind of what I was saying before. I can control feeling it, having my back as I process through the grief, the sadness, whatever is coming up. It's not that I'm resigning, right? I'm not going to passively resign to whatever happens. It's about recognizing the difference between what can I change, what can I do, who can I be, and what I can't. Focusing on the things that are within my control and letting go of the rest. I know it sounds easier said than done, but practice is how you actually do it, right? So that's one thing you have to do is practice shifting yourself out of that resistance into acceptance. Now, just to finish this off, let's tie these concepts with a couple examples really quickly. Besides the one that I just gave you about graduation, let's talk about if you have like a challenging situation at work. Maybe there's a project that's not maybe going like you had planned, and you're feeling very frustrated, you're feeling very stressed, and it can continue. If you like continue to go down that path, then you're going to find yourself really getting caught in a lot of negativity, probably lacking focus, probably having a lack of energy because we're just spinning on all of the things that we think should be different, right? However, if we can get ourselves to practice acceptance and let go of your resistance, you're going to find that you have way more energy to problem solve and to find way more creative situations for yourself. This is such a powerful thing, again, for us to see. Resistance is so constricting. It doesn't help provide any kind of new solutions. I think of like even if we're in resistance, it's a lot of victim mentality. And that's maybe another trigger that you can kind of understand for yourself. If like you're being a victim in some way, you're probably in a lot of resistance. And so again, noticing that, and then if you can get to acceptance, it's more like, okay, this is where I'm at. I'm in a challenging situation and I'm noticing this, this, and this. What do I want to do about it? We are in acceptance of it. We're not saying it shouldn't be this way. It's more of like, this is what it is. What do I want to do? And I promise you, you're going to be opened up to so many new ways to problem solve and find creative solutions. Now, let's do one more. Let's think about emotions. You guys, I've heard me so many times talk about this, but when we resist our emotions, let's just even say, for example, sadness or anger, we often can end up feeling stuck in them, right? We replay the situations. We, again, become almost a victim to it. We want everybody else to solve the problem for us. We want them to do something different in order for us to feel a certain way. I noticed for myself, this is when we tend to react not the best way because we are the fuel, right? The fuel that is stuck within us is not being processed. So we show up way more reactive. And again, it's again acknowledging like acceptance doesn't mean we have to like feeling sadness. Acceptance doesn't mean we have to like feeling anger. Acceptance is just acknowledging this is what I'm feeling without feeling trapped in them, which actually helps us to move through them. Acceptance is this, and I can do it. It's such a more powerful place to be. And again, and it empowers you. You are now in control. You have new ways to move through this versus when we're restrictive and we're resisting an emotion, we kind of become limited by it. We feel like we have to do things in a certain way. So again, these are just a couple examples, but especially with this time of year, without us knowing it, we can be sitting in some resistance. And I noticed I didn't recognize I was doing that for a while because I was telling myself, I am so excited about my daughter graduating. I am so excited for the next, step that we're going to, because it is true. But I forget to also check in with the other side to make sure that I'm not resisting it. I'm not just putting toxic positivity onto something that I'm resisting. So the way that you can make sure that you're taking care of yourself is check in with the other side, because both sides are always there. They always are there. And if you tell yourself that it's not true, then you're in resistance. So if you're going through a situation right now and you are thinking positively, check in with the other side of like, where might I be resisting? Where might I be thinking this is not fair? It shouldn't be this way, or I just don't want this to happen, whatever it is. And let yourself, if you can, practice getting to acceptance, feeling the emotions that you're afraid to feel, questioning the thoughts, having compassion for yourself, and then being able to move forward. Acceptance creates energy. Just like I said, when I came back from that concert and I literally had 2 hours of sleep, I had so much energy because I was in acceptance of being tired, which is just so counterintuitive. So just for you, where might you be in resistance? Where might you be reactive? And are you willing to do the work to get yourself to acceptance? Because that's where energy, flow, solutions, being the person that you want to be, empowering yourself, that's creating the life that we want. Life is going to continue to happen. Life is. And the more we resist, the more we actually don't get to live our life. So acceptance is going to let you be the creator of your life. And I promise you that you got to practice this to see it, but it's a beautiful thing. So I'm going to practice today as my daughter is finishing high school to accept where I'm at, accept my emotions, accept the things that are going on in my life and my health, accept all of it. And I'll let you know how it goes. But I would love to hear from you. How does that help you this time of year through Maycember, right? We're in the thick of Maycember. Tell me how that helps support you and how you're going to practice getting into more acceptance. All right, you guys, I'll talk to you guys next week.